But in the Gospel of Matthew, this is again in the Sermon on the Mount. And it's very important what Jesus is saying to us. I really think we should get our ears perked up, especially for the Sermon on the Mount. And all gospel, we need to hear all the gospel. We need to hear all the text. But the Sermon on the Mount seems to really stand out. And he does say, you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? It's kind of like trying to put toothpaste back in a toothpaste tube. You can't do it once it's out. It's gone. It's not going to happen. It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. Salt, once it loses salt, and I'm sure everybody here has gotten salt at some time or another, and it's just kind of lost everything, and it's just no good. It's kind of just, it's not very good, and it does no good. Now, you are the light of the world. I thought Jesus was the light of the world. Didn't you think Jesus was the light of the world? Isn't he the light? We are reflecting lights of Jesus Christ. He has called us to reflect him here in this world. No, we're not the true light. We're kind of like the moon in a way. You know how the sun is the real light, and then the moon kind of reflects that for us at night. We're kind of the same way. And we need to be that light under people's feet. But I do want to hit on salt just a little more. You know, salt is one of the only condiments and things that over the years, especially the past 100 or so years, has really not changed in its value. Now, it actually is cheaper now than it was 100 years ago because of the price of inflation. You can go get a whole truckload of salt for about $2.50. I mean, a whole tractor trailer load. I kid you not. It's probably a little bit more than that, but it's not as valuable as it once was. You could go over here to the store and you can get a big container of salt for a really good price. And if you think about it, it really hasn't changed much over the years. In the past 50, 60, 70 years, the price of salt hasn't changed that much. But in the day of Jesus, it was worth a lot. We kind of take salt for granted, but in that day they didn't. Some cases it was worth more than gold and silver. You say, man, I should have invested in salt a couple thousand years ago, perhaps. You know why? Because we have refrigeration and things today. We have ways of preserving that they didn't have. And salt is a preserver. I'll never forget my uncle talking about how my family, years ago, they would raise a couple of hogs each year. They didn't have a lot. And most of the time they caught their meal in many cases, squirrels, rabbits, whatever, but they would have ham and they would have pork. And they would cure hams with salt. And he said, we got really good at doing it because if you missed a little pinhole, the whole ham was ruined. It would rot. You've got to cover it up. You've got to keep all of the air out of there so it can be preserved for further use. And you see, we're that way. We are the preservers of this earth. We get made fun of, we get laughed at, but we are here as a preservant. The world needs us more than they think. And you see, we are also the flavor of this world. Christ sent us here to be flavorful. We're not to be God's chosen frozen. You know, you Lutherans have changed the past 30, 40 years. It used to be them and Presbyterians and a few and Episcopals and others were what? God's frozen chosen. You measured your sanctification by the droop on your face. You know, you had, I'm sanctified, see. You can't have fun. We don't laugh in church. We don't do that. No, Jesus said we are the flavor of this world. And he wants us to go out into the communities that he has placed us in to take his word. This is actually something the bishop preached upon this past week. And I'm going to give you a little paraphrase of what the bishop said. He said, if we in our congregations do not go out into this world as the salt and the light and tell the world of Jesus Christ, tell this hurting and dying world about Jesus, then who's going to do it? The answer is nobody. We have been called with a calling. We each have been called. Every person here has a calling. You cannot be a true Christian and sit on your hands in a church and do nothing. I know a lot of people want that, but we cannot do that. We have been called to take the message, to be that salt, to be that preserver, to be that flavor of the world. And we need to show Christ to each and every person that we run into. I've used this on several occasions. When you go out and you go to the grocery store, whoever is checking you out, now I know there are less and less checkers at the grocery store. Maybe we should say, Mr. Computer, I hope you have a very nice day. I don't know, maybe he can understand. I don't know, maybe he's having a bad day. Or her, could be a female computer, I guess. We need to be fair in this. But whoever we run onto, the checkers, those people who are out putting things on the shelves, the stalkers, everybody, we should be gracious to them. Why? You don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what they are dealing with. And sometimes just being friendly, just being that salt, that light can brighten their day. It doesn't matter who you run into. Do you know that the day that is the least liked by people in the restaurant business is Sunday afternoon? Have you ever thought of that? There's been polls done on this. And people, especially servers and others, do not like Sunday afternoons. You know why? Because the holy pious Christians come out and they are the worst of customers. They are nasty many times. They say nasty things. They are disrespectful. And this should not be. Years ago, we used to go out to lunch after church with a pastor and his family and some family members of our own. And I'll be honest with you, we had to quit doing it because we were so embarrassed of some of the things that this pastor and the family members were saying. The way they acted towards people who were waiting the table was no respect. Total disrespect. How do you think? And he was known as a pastor. We were known as members of that congregation, or people that at least went to that congregation. How do you think that looked to others? Not very salty, if you will. And then we are the light of the world. We are here to reflect the light of Christ. Yes, he is the true light of the world, but we are to show his light. Do you know that Epiphany, as we've talked about this, is the darkest time of the year? And there's a reason that Epiphany is here, because now we need the light of Christ, and we need to be those lights. If you want to be in a business right now, from December through about the middle of March, that is a booming business, go into the funeral business. It is booming right now. It booms every year from December through the middle of March. Why? Because it's dark and there is depression and anxiety. Do you know that suicide rates are at their highest right now? They are high anyway in our communities and in our world. But they actually even go up during the winter months because people are locked in their houses. It's dark again. It's depressing. There's anxiety. There's all these things. More people are dealing with counseling and things. And I'm so thankful that there is counseling. But it's because of the dark time of year. I know every one of us, well, probably not everybody, but I feel much better once the spring hits and you can go sit on the porch and you can see the brightness till, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. It's wonderful. It kind of livens you up, makes you feel brighter. But this is all the more reason why we need Jesus Christ. He is that light and we are his reflecting lights. People need to hear of Jesus because of us. And again, I'll just regurgitate what the bishop said. If we don't do it, if we don't take it forth, then who will? Who will? And I pray today that the light of Christ would shine in your lives, that your saltiness, if it has kind of gone, will be restored, and that all of us will go out into this world and proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ. Amen.